Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. We are diving deep today into what is really a survival guide, a playbook for the modern professional.
That's a good way to put it. A survival guide.
Because the reality is, the 2026 workplace is defined by what the source calls chronic uncertainty.
Right. And that's a mix of everything, isn't it? You have
Yeah.
these persistent supply chain shocks, geopolitical pressures.
And of course, the speed of digital transformation, which is just dizzying.
It's true. If you're a leader right now, or even just trying to be effective, the old playbooks, the predictable answers, they just don't work anymore.
They really don't.
So our mission in this deep dive is to pull out the most actionable advice. We're looking for, repeatable approaches that let teams lower risk, decide faster.
And innovate without burning everyone out in the process.
Exactly.
And what I found fascinating is that the source doesn't just give you a random list of skills. It outlines 7 core capabilities that are all interconnected.
They reinforce each other. It's a whole system.
So what are they?
Okay, so you have adaptability, AI fluency, and collaborative work that's really anchored by psychological safety.
Okay.
Then there's a deep coaching mindset, intentional culture shaping, building trust-based relationships, and finally, decisive critical thinking.
It's a full stack.
Wow.
And if one is shaky, the whole thing kind of wobbles.
The whole structure's at risk.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with what feels like the fundamental shift here. The difference between technical problems and adaptive challenges.
This is the non-negotiable starting point for any modern leader. You have to get this distinction.
So what is it?
A technical problem is something an expert can solve. There's a known formula. A piece of code is broken. A machine fails.
You call the specialist, they fix it. Done.
Precisely. But an adaptive challenge, well, that demands new thinking. It resists those top-down easy answers.
So things like, you can't just order the supply chain becomes stable again.
Exactly. It needs broad participation, constant learning, and often a real shift in how the whole organization thinks and behaves.
So if the challenge is adaptive, the solution has to be, well, adaptability, learning agility.
Right.
We all talk about being agile, but how do you make that more than just a buzzword? How does it become a real habit?
Through short learning cycles. That's the practical answer. You structure your work to make testing assumptions cheap and fast.
So no more 6-month grand rollouts.
No. You're aiming for a 2-week pilot. You capture quick feedback. You adjust on the fly. It's about building a muscle where change is just normal. It's not some huge disruptive event.
And the power for that muscle, that comes from mindset, right? The source had this incredible data, the growth mindset advantage.
That's striking.
It suggested people with a positive, growth-oriented mindset are, 31% more productive?
31%. And that's proof that this internal way of thinking translates directly to the bottom line. It's not just a nice to have.
So what does that look like?
When leaders model it, they change how their teams see failure. A smart failure isn't a defeat anymore.
It's an investment.
It's an investment in creativity. It's learning. It's giving people the space to try things without that constant fear of professional penalty if it doesn't work out the first time.
That pivots us perfectly to the human side of this. Because you can have the mindset, but the team culture is the engine that actually makes it go.
That's it.
Which brings us to collaborative work and psychological safety.
And this is where we can look at that foundational research from Google, from Project Aristotle.
Right.
They found that psychological safety, the belief that you won't be punished for speaking up with ideas or questions or even mistakes, is the absolute foundation of a great team.
It's number one, above everything else.
It sits alongside things like clarity and dependability, sure, but without safety, the rest of it just crumbles.
That makes so much sense, but here's the tension. How does a leader create that safety for candor while also demanding, brutal honesty and accountability when the results aren't there?
That's the tightrope walk. And it's why we have to distinguish psychological safety from, say, trust-based relationships. They're related, but different.
How so?
Psychological safety is about the moment. Can I say, I think this is the wrong direction right now without getting my head bitten off?
Okay.
Trust is built over time. It's built on 2 pillars. Competence. I trust you know how to do your job. And integrity. I trust you'll act ethically.
Ah, okay. So safety lets me speak up in the meeting. Trust is why people actually listen to me when I do.
You've got it. And the practical value there is just massive. When people raise those red flags early, you avoid costly mistakes down the line. You just get better ideas on the table faster.
And this all demands a different kind of leadership, which leads us to the coaching mindset. This is that shift from the manager as the know-it-all to the leader as the learn it all.
A complete shift. The old model was about having all the answers. The new model is about building the capacity for answers in other people.
Which is critical now because you need that fast, decentralized problem solving. But what does a coaching mindset look like, day to day?
It's about moving the ownership of the work. When someone brings you a problem, your first instinct isn't to solve it for them.
You don't give them the answer.
No. You ask open-ended questions. You make them generate the solutions. You might say, what are 3 ways you could approach this? What are the risks of each one?
So you're building their problem-solving muscle, not just flexing your own.
Exactly. It drives engagement, it accelerates their growth, and it frees you up to think about the next big challenge.
Okay, let's switch gears to strategic execution, especially with technology.
Yeah.
AI fluency and digital confidence.
Yes.
The source says you don't need to be a data scientist, which I have to say is a relief.
It's a huge relief for most people. The goal isn't coding. It's about seeing the opportunities and, just as importantly, the risks.
So for the average person, what is AI fluency?
It's getting comfortable with things like prompt engineering, understanding the limits of a model, and crucially, applying it to a real, measurable business outcome.
But isn't there a risk we just get distracted? Using AI for busy work, generating fluff, and not focusing on what really matters.
That's where the discipline has to come in. A good, safe-to-try pilot isn't just about playing around.
Okay.
You start with a short workshop. You identify one specific customer pain point or one efficiency bottleneck, and you focus the pilot only on that outcome. You have to prove the value and prove it fast.
That's why the data showed CEOs with strong digital readiness grew revenue faster. They weren't just curious. They were strategic.
They tied every experiment to business value.
And as we use these tools more, the ethics become paramount. You have to maintain trust. You have to be transparent.
Absolutely. The source is clear here. You need simple, robust governance.
What does that mean?
3 questions before you deploy anything. 1, does this solve a real problem? 2, is our data ready and compliant? And 3, what's the clear return on investment?
Those are the guardrails. They keep you safe while letting you move fast.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This need for speed brings us to decisive critical thinking and the power of networks.
Yes, because when time is short, you can't afford fuzzy thinking. You need a better decision-making structure.
And the source has a tool for this, right? The Fred routine.
Frame, explore, decide. It's a simple, repeatable way to sharpen your thinking under pressure.
Okay, break that down for us. Frame.
Frame is about defining the problem properly before you jump to solutions. What are we actually trying to solve here? What does success look like? So many teams skip this step.
Then explore.
This is where you leverage those networks we mentioned. You generate multiple options by deliberately seeking out perspectives from outside your own little silo. You fight the urge to fall in love with your first idea.
And finally, decide.
You commit. You don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. You make the call, you communicate why, and you set up the next learning cycle to see if you were right.
That explore phase, leveraging networks outside your silo, that's not just a nice idea. It's financially critical.
The data on this it's genuinely staggering. It translates directly into the value of your company.
Talk about that S&P 1500 study.
Okay, so this U.S. study tracked CEOs. It found that if a CEO moved their network diversity, so their connections outside their usual function, from just average to the 75th percentile,
it raised the firm's Tobin's Q, which, for our listener, is basically how the market values your assets versus what they're worth on paper. It's a huge indicator of future growth.
Exactly. And that increase was equivalent to about an $81 million market cap lift for a median firm.
Wow. An $81 million lift.
Just from having more diverse conversations. So that uncomfortable coffee with someone from R&D or finance isn't just being nice, it's a strategic financial decision.
Okay, so now we have this whole playbook. We need to actually make it work in today's world, which for most of us means leading hybrid and remote teams.
Which demands maximum clarity and trust. It's a constant balancing act.
The Korn Ferry data you found really highlights that, right?
It really does. It shows this huge misalignment. 80% of employees say flexible hours are a top priority.
And yet
nearly 2/3 are still working full-time in the office. That gap, that tension has to be managed with a clear strategy, not just hoping it works out.
So what are the tactics to close that gap? How do you make hybrid actually work?
It's all about asynchronous workflows and smart handoffs. You have to stop defaulting to a meeting for everything.
Use shared documents, video briefings.
Exactly. Reduce that meeting fatigue. And crucially, leaders have to shift to outcome-based trust. Stop worrying about who is online and start focusing on the quality of the work being delivered.
That leads right into the final piece, the outcome metrics that matter.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trusting for results, you can't measure activity.
You can't. You have to surgically shift away from tracking busyness.
So instead of hours logged, you're tracking what?
Decision quality. How sticky are our decisions? Time to alignment. How long does it take us to agree on a path forward? Iteration speed. How fast are those learning cycles we talked about?
And learning velocity.
And learning velocity. Is our team actually getting smarter and more capable over time? Those are the metrics that show real strategic impact.
So what does this all mean? We've covered 7 massive capabilities here, all designed to fight that chronic uncertainty.
And the research really validates this whole approach. It's a people-centered defense against volatility. We know psychological safety drives high-performing teams. We have the data that diverse networks increase firm value.
Higher engagement reduces defects and absenteeism.
Right. So an organization's ability to survive and your ability to thrive within it is all tied to mastering this holistic set of skills.
And the key for you listening is, don't get overwhelmed. Don't try to roll all 7 of these out on Monday morning.
That would be its own massive adaptive challenge.
Exactly. The advice is to start small. Pick one tactical change.
Just one. Maybe you start using that Fred B decision log in your weekly meetings.
Or you hold a coaching retrospective with your team. Or run one tiny AI pilot on one specific efficiency goal.
And then you measure the outcome, see what happened.
And to make it stick.
A simple weekly cadence, a personal practice. At the end of each week, just note down 3 new things I tried,
Okay.
2 ways I can improve them next week, and 1 success or key insight I can share with somebody else. That steady, simple practice is what turns these ideas into real value.
So to leave you with a final provocative thought, building on that immense value of cross-cutting networks, how might you leverage a connection outside your immediate team this week? Someone in finance or marketing or operations that you rarely talk to.
Go have that $81 million coffee.
Exactly. Go talk to them and see if you can surface one specific opportunity or maybe a risk that the experts on your own team haven't even seen yet.
Go explore.
Thank you explicitly for tuning into the SmartKeys podcast. If you want the full roadmap and all the detailed tactics we discussed today, subscribe now for more deep dives. You can read the full article, 7 must-have future leadership skills for the 2026 workplace, over at smartkeys.org. The link, of course, is in the show notes. We'll talk to you next time.